An empty gym is a sight to behold, not a single soul to be seen, neither is there any music to be heard. The only music you hear is the clunking of metal and the grunting of your voice. It is truly a meditative space to enter. Have you ever trained at an empty gym? Without anybody, with no music, with no air conditioner on, just you, metal, and lifting hard. It is a push day today. Well, this was not today. I'm recording it the day after I've done the push movement. But this is not a push movement. This is a pull movement. And why am I doing a pull movement on a push day? Well, it turns out that the back and the chest are antagonistic muscles. So antagonistic muscles are muscles where if one muscle contracts, the other one expands. The bicep and the tricep are an example of that. So pumping some blood, I use that phrase a lot, right? Pumping some blood to the back, seeing to it that your rear delts are firing and ready to go and warmed up is a good way to see to it that your stabilizers will jump into action when you are doing any pressing movements. I'm also warming up my triceps, which will see to it that my joints, especially my elbow joints, feel good and ready to go when I'm doing my pushing movements. So here I'm starting off with a flat bench press and I'm doing what is called top set training. This is my first warm up where I will be, I think I hit about 22, I think this was 22 kgs and I just went for a few reps. So what is top set training? Top set training is where you work yourself up to a very heavy weight and try to get about maybe 3 to 5 reps in that working in that top set, which is the only one you count. And everything you do before is simply working up to that top set. It's a very good way to see to it that you get a mix of strength and hypertrophy. So strength training is generally programmed in the lower rep range. And also when it comes to strength training, one important thing is that you should not go to failure. Failure training is more hypertrophy training, which is, well, effective hypertrophy training, if you ask me, is really hard. Strength training, on the other hand, is you don't want to go to failure. You want to stop shy of failure and you want to lift heavy and you want to lift in the lower rep range. So the top set that I'm going to do, let's see how many reps I got. I don't remember, but I got I got a very few reps because that's essentially how you do a top set training, and then you do a back off set, and in your back off sets you go in the higher rep range. Now the rep ranges don't really matter whether you're doing a lower rep range or a higher rep range, at least to a certain extent. That's what the research says. At least if your goal is hypertrophy training, then it doesn't matter, right? What matters is that you is proximity to failure. So it has to be a hard set. There has to be a substantial amount of effort, and you have to see to it that you do a good uh, I would say two RIR or three RIR, okay, when it comes to lifting. So RIR is reps in reserve. So if let's say I had 3 reps in reserve, if I do a particular set, I would call that set as a 3 RIR. So understanding this and figuring out where you stand when it comes to RIR is a good way of working, I suppose, right? That's something that you guys should really get used to. And you call out that, hey, I did this set. This is probably a 5 RIR, which means I could get 5 more reps than what I normally have at the moment, right? So I think this was my top set, and I got a complete of only 3 reps. That's it. And I kind of like almost lost my balance there. And I wanted it to be there like that because, well, I want to keep it real, right? I want to keep it really real. So what I'm doing here is an incline bench press. So these are the back off sets. I'm doing this for basically for size. Sure, there is a strength component to it, and strength and size training do have an overlap. Especially if you're a beginner, just try to get stronger, and you will put on muscle. Trust me. But then, once you get, let's say, 3 or 4 years of training into the picture, it's good to mix your rep range, because let's say that you uh, go down in rep range and lift a heavier weight, that is going to have carryover to your hypertrophy training, where if you got 8 reps with 30 kgs or 35 kgs or whatever, now you can get 12 reps, which is really great when it comes to putting on size, right? So these are cross cable tricep extensions, and they are for training the long head of the tricep in the contracted position, right? So in the shortened position. So your muscles essentially, like for example, if you can lengthen bias your movements, or you can shorten bias your movements, right? So here for the triceps, if when you go down all the way down, right, and you feel the squeeze, the stretch they say is better than the squeeze, but there is nothing wrong in training your muscle and seeing to it that you are not leaving anything on the table, right? So what I'm doing here is a cross cable tricep extension that hits the contracted position of the tricep. So the tension is highest when I'm down, when I'm squeezing really down, and I feel the muscle also there. But then what you can do here is that you can control the weight, right, when you're coming up. So when I'm coming up, I'm not just leaving the cables, right? I am seeing to it that I get it to my chest in as controlled a movement as I possibly can, right? The long head of the tricep is the biggest part of the tricep. And if you really want to bring about your arms, it's useful to see to it that you train more of your triceps than your biceps. So some people like training biceps and they think that it's really great, which is true. I mean, like who doesn't want big biceps? Who doesn't want big arms? But your triceps make up 70% of your arm musculature, right? And when it comes to the triceps, the most important is your long head, right? So the long head, in fact, is the biggest head of your triceps. So I'm doing this here. Yes, there are over the shoulder movements that place the long head in a lengthened position. So, for example, an overhead tricep extension would really be great for your long head. Probably better than this. I don't know. If you are an anatomy nerd who knows better, please let me know. But then I've been having some shoulder impingement issues, and I've been told by the physio to not do anything overhead. So no overhead pressing, no shoulder pressing, right? And at the same time, no overhead tricep extension either. So this is the I would say substitute for that, but it's still a very good movement. I learned this, in fact, from someone called Davis Daly, who's a really great who's a great lifter at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, he has videos on YouTube as well as on Instagram. You can check his channel out. He's called Davis Daly. So he said that this is, in fact, something that actually puts the tricep in a very good position to contract. So here is a just a tricep extension machine. This is for the lateral head of the tricep. It's something that is also pretty aesthetic because when you look at the tricep from the side, not to a certain extent, it gives you that cut, right? So the mass generally, the mass or the bigness, okay, bigness, okay. Well, if you want a tricep to look meaty and big, it's the long head. But if you want it to look kind of like chiseled, as they call it, and give you that cut, it's the lateral head that matters. Again, I would like to repeat here that I increased the weight in between because I felt the weight was not weighty enough. And here is what's important, that yes, the reps don't matter to a certain extent, in the sense that you can go all the way up to 30 reps and build muscle, and you can also build muscle in a very in a rep range like something like 5 reps or 6 reps can also build muscle. It's just a question of signal. So if you do 30 reps, there's like a very small signal, boom, 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 that you're getting to your muscle. Your muscle is receiving in order to build muscle. But if you, let's say, do 5 reps, then it's going boom, boom. So it's essentially getting, okay, these very big signals to build muscle, right? Having said that, from a practical standpoint, if you are going to program something in a very high rep range, you are going to get bored, right? That's generally what's going to happen, because I'm not feeling the weight. My mind is not really engaged, okay, to the muscle that I'm lifting. In some sense, I'm not kind of locked in. I'm not talking about the mind muscle connection here when I said my mind is not engaged to the muscle. Perhaps a better way of putting it is that I'm not locked in because I'm not feeling the weight. And when I do that, when that happens, personally, I feel bored. And a lot of clients also have said the same thing, that when I've started to actually make them lift heavier, they've been like, I'm locked in and I'm actually doing the set and seeing to it that it is effective, right? It's like reading the first chapter of a book, right? When you read it for the first time, you're engaged and you're not bored. But if you're reading the same thing over and over and over and over again, after a point, your mind doesn't really care, right? It's not engaged. It's not stimulated enough because there is no novelty in what's actually happening for you. That is your mind to be like, oh, this is interesting, and I am going to actively participate in what's going on, right? Now, from a collective intelligence standpoint, our muscles also have their own little intelligence. You've heard of the term muscle memory. So they do have a memory. So muscle memory is when, let's say, you don't work out for a very long time, but then you start working out. You get back to where you left off in a far lesser amount of time than you did before because of the muscle memory. So if a muscle has memory, then a muscle also has intelligence. And I'm not quite sure if muscles have feelings and emotions. Let's not go there. But yeah, muscles do have some kind of an intelligence. It's an agent. Okay, it has an agency to it, right? So it does have like it probably, I'm not quite sure if it's aware of itself. Anyways, I kind of derailed and got into philosophy and the agentiality of muscles, because we don't have like a central intelligence. Yeah, sure, we do have our brain has a central intelligence, but our muscles are also intelligent. So are the organs like the liver, the heart, right? The maybe the bloodstream, maybe the cells in our bodies also are having a certain amount of intelligence, in the sense that they have goals, and based on those goals, they act, right? The ability to act based on a particular self-driven goal is perhaps what intelligent behavior is all about. Perhaps. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think is intelligence, and if intelligence in human beings is always centralized, or should we think of human beings as decentralized forms of intelligence? I err on the latter. Sorry, yeah, I do err on the latter. Anyways, coming back, this is a cable tricep push down, and I'm doing some partial reps here. Now, some people have a problem with regards to partial reps and say that, oh, well, you shouldn't do partial reps because of the stimulus to fatigue and all. Where once you get the partial reps into the movement, what happens is that the direction starts to err in the direction of fatigue and not in the direction of stimulus. But then these are triceps. It's fine. The triceps are big muscles. There's no doubt about that. They're bigger than what most people think. They are big muscles, but then they're not bigger than the biceps, of course. But it's fine. I think partial reps really do something. How empirically grounded is this? And to have partial reps done a lot, maybe there isn't a lot of research, but it's okay to be science based. But let's not be completely science bound. Maybe we've not still figured out the mechanism. So the end, I thought let's do some pec deck, right? So the pec deck machine again is a fantastic machine if you use it right. So a lot of people again they don't put a substantial amount of weight on it, and they just, I would say, they don't control the weight again. Here I'm getting a stretch, as you can see, so I'm emphasizing the stretched position and seeing to it that I stop, okay, in the stretched position and then contract. So the a lot of tension is in fact caused in the stretched position, leading to a great hypertrophic stimulus. The squeeze position, you feel better, right? The muscles contract and you feel like, oh my God, especially if you do something like a pinch press, which is one of the stupidest movements that you could possibly do when it comes to hitting your chest, makes you feel like, oh, I'm feeling the chest a lot. But that does not mean that you're actually going to build muscle. And here is an argument for it. I could squeeze my biceps, right? I could squeeze my biceps for a very long time and I can feel it, right? Without ever lifting weight. Even a person who's never lifted weight can do that. And he'd be like, oh my God, I feel my triceps or biceps or whatever muscle that you're squeezing. But does this squeeze actually translate to mechanical tension? No, it's absolutely not, because if what weight are you in fact lifting? You're not lifting any weight, right? So that doesn't really translate to anything. So the squeeze makes you feel like, oh my God, something is actually happening to my muscle, and therefore I'm going to build muscle, but it doesn't really translate to it, right? So contraction is great. Do use it to a certain extent, but see to it that you generally lift with a full range of motion, with sometimes emphasizing the stretched position. You could emphasize the contracted position like I did before, if let's say you have to work through an impingement like I did. So this was the very last set of the pec deck that I did. I did 3 sets. So I completely did, I think, about 9 sets. And I thought it was really good, a good time for me to kind of go into push-ups. And I could not even get 2 push-ups. So this is like proper failure. So I held myself, okay, in an isometric contraction for quite some time to see how much I'll be able to elicit muscular damage from muscle. Anyways, with that, I leave you with the first image that I started this session off with. See you guys later.